Hi, this is Michael Carlin, president of Henry & Horn Wealth Management for the Manage a Fund podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about vacations. You can't talk about vacations without Roxanne Boriski. Now, I practiced that, and I went ahead and I went for it. But Roxanne is not only my travel agent. She is 22 years of experience, and Arizona Trails Travel is the company. You can go to aztrailstravel.com if you want to go there, and you got to go and you got to look to see how it works, how the industry works, what she can do to help you. But in the 22 years experience, she's a specialist in South Pacific, Australia, Africa, golf travel, Italy, which of course was one of the trips you helped me with, so thank you.
You're welcome.
2012, elected to the International Board of Directors Ensemble. Do I have to read all these? 2011, inducted to the Lower Verde Valley River of Time Museum. Okay, she has lots of accomplishments. She knows this industry inside out and backwards. Roxanne, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for asking me to be here. I love talking travel.
Well, you're in luck because we got like 40 minutes of it.
Awesome.
We have just begun. And so Roxanne's here because we really need to uncover and discover this whole taboo topic of travel. Clients will come to me and they will not have accounted for travel as a part of their budget over and over again. And it's not like it used to be, is it, Roxanne?
No. People used to factor in their vacations all the time into their budgets. And they'd set money aside and have little, stashes of money for vacations. And now our society has gotten people away from thinking so much about being able to take their vacation. If you look at the U.S. vacation compared to European vacations and amount of time that people take off in other parts of the world, it's not part of our programmed way of thinking as much as it is in other areas. But I think it's starting to turn back to that. People are starting to realize the value of taking their vacations now.
And I think it's some of the data, which I know we'll talk about in the research, but for me personally, I've taken a week or whatever that was. I went to Italy for 10 days. That was it. Yeah. That's it. That's the vacation. And for me, for the year, and like a lot of people, particularly because of my phone and the connectivity, I'm really working 7 days a week.
I hear you. 7
days. It's all the time. And so, I'm surprised. And I just told you about the guy from GM today who came in and he's just retired. And his first official day, quote unquote, of retirement's in February, and he had no vacation budget in his plans, and we just talked about it. So, I need your help.
That's sad.
We got to be helping our listeners because they need to be planning for this stuff.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Whether it's a big vacation or a small vacation, if you're just going to go away for a long weekend just because you need a break and you have to get out of town, everything from the small to the large, and vacations are personal. So what's luxury or extravagant to one person is going to be very different to the other person.
Right.
It doesn't have to be huge trips, long trips. It can be simple little getaways.
Right, and people don't. They think vacation. They're thinking it's got to be a week, and it's got to be this elaborate thing. It's got to Disney and flights, and how do I book, and where do I go? And we're going to help you unpack all of that stuff. So,
yes.
In terms of how much to spend and all of that. But why don't we talk a little bit about? Again, because we're going to get a lot into the financial aspect of it, but talking about the importance of vacations, because there's a physical component to it, isn't there?
Yeah, there really is.
Yeah.
My philosophy has always been that a vacation will open your mind, refresh your spirit, renew your health. And a lot of medical practitioners today are saying the same thing. You need to take a vacation because it is good for your health.
Right.
It helps your heart rate. It helps your social interactions. It improves your mental attitude and your acumen for when you go back to work, if you're going back to work. And it's just a good way to be able to improve your interpersonal skills even.
Right. And there's data that supports that. One of which, now I'm from Framingham, Massachusetts.
Okay, I'm originally from Connecticut.
I know. So as
we know this
as East Coast people, and there is a Framingham heart study, which is one of the things that makes Framingham most popular, other than the fact it was the largest town in the United States for a while. So my own hometown has one of the most famous heart studies in the world, and in the heart study, they show that in particularly men who vacationed were regularly more. They were 32% less likely to die from a heart attack. Women who vacation regularly, that figure jumps to 50% less likely to have a heart attack. The data is shocking.
It is. It supports
what you were saying.
It supports the truth.
Yeah, and so I think it's important that we start there because there's that psychological impact to vacationing that what I want to demonstrate is that people understand that it's something you have to do because your personal well-being and your personal health has a tremendous impact on your finances.
It does.
If you're unhealthy, be prepared to spend a lot more than you would if you were healthy.
Absolutely.
And if part of your health is travel, start your vacation planning now.
Yes.
All right.
Definitely. Yeah, it makes a huge difference in people's lives. And I've seen it time and again.
Yeah, I was going to ask because I felt, so I went to Italy and again, I've already thanked you, but I'm going to thank you again for you prepared this trip. It was awesome. Venice and Rome and the Amalfi Coast. It was amazing. And, I wasn't sure how tired I was going to be because, you got to go, you got the time change, you come back, but there was an element of recharging. Can you how does that happen? How did I get recharged, but yet I was doing all this walking and traveling and flying, but I felt recharged. I can't put my head around it.
Okay, so there are different types of vacations, and there are people who I have worked with that will want to pack everything into this trip. They're like, right. We want to go to Europe. We want to be there for 12 days. We want to see 6 countries, and we're just going to go and do it.
Yeah.
And I go, you need to factor in some downtime, for logistical reasons, things that can happen, trains that go on strike, anything that can happen in a moment's notice. You need to be able to have time to weave around those incidents. And so you need a little bit of downtime, and you need to be able to enjoy the destination that you're going to.
Right.
So when I plan for my clients, I always try to get a sense of who they are, how active are they, what do they enjoy doing, what's important to them, and build a trip where they can really get a sense of place. Because you can go and hop from city to city, night to night, and you get to see the buildings, and you can say you were there and check it off the list, but you don't get to experience the culture or the destination or what makes it unique and special, which is the reason why you're going there in the first place.
Yeah, and so I've heard people in clients, and they'll go to Europe, and they'll just say, it was just one church after the other church after the other church, and I'm saying, okay. I get that, but so to me, there are some vacations that just aren't structured right, and those people aren't coming back as refreshed.
Right, exactly. Right. And that's what we do as professional travel planners and advisors.
Right.
We're aware of that. When people are looking at planning their vacation and they're looking at all the stuff on the internet's not going to tell you how long it's going to take you to get from point A to point B.
Right.
And you need to factor that in.
Yeah.
So that you're not getting to a city, being there overnight, getting up and having to make a 10-hour drive the next day to get to the next point.
Right. Because even if you map it, sometimes it just doesn't tell you the full story. And when we went to Italy, one of the things that if you hadn't planned the trip that would have really stressed me out is there was striking going on with regards to the trains. Now, granted, our train ran, but if you hadn't been there, I would have definitely been stressed out about it.
Yeah, and they can do that in Europe on a moment's notice. I mean, sometimes you get advance notice, and sometimes you get 24 hours notice that the workers just aren't happy and they're going on strike.
Right.
I had a client one time that wanted to plan a family vacation, and it was, I think, 2 or 3 of the kids, and they wanted them to see everything that mom had seen when she had been in Europe 25 years previously, when she got out of college. And they wanted to do Italy and Greece, and they wanted to do it in 10 days for $5,000.
Oh, that doesn't sound for all those people?
For 4 people.
Okay.
Yep.
So did they run from destination to destination? I'm just guessing.
They did. We started out working with them, and unfortunately, this was a situation where Dad had come to me and wanted to work with me to plan the trip. And as I was planning the trip, I was telling them what they couldn't fit in, and where I thought they needed to save to economize to fit their budget.
Right.
And she thought she knew better.
Uh-oh, what happened?
And she went ahead and planned the trip on her own.
Uh-huh.
And we were following them on Facebook because they're associates of my husband's, and so
Sure.
they were connected. We were following the trip on Facebook, and we could see the things that weren't going right. That they never did make it to certain points, and it was all about they had booked the cheap hotel that
Right.
was a, half-hour train ride out of the city. So they were having to take the train
Which
in
is
and
probably
out
the last thing that they needed.
all the time.
Traffic, yeah.
It did not flow well.
Right.
So it's interesting what people think versus, if you just let somebody advise you that
Yeah.
does it for a living, it makes a bit of a difference.
So we have to unpack this because I've got questions about spending more in a hotel versus less, and so we'll definitely get to that. I wanted to talk a little bit about the financial aspect and weave in a whole bunch of these other topics, concepts. So what I encourage people to do is think about the big picture when it comes to vacation planning. I want people to, at the end of the year, think about the year ahead and think first, big picture, how many trips do we want to take?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, what's that number? Perfect. And then I do want people to get rough estimates
Right.
about how much each of those trips might cost.
Right.
Now, this not necessarily is always the time for fine tuning. You've got time for that, but I want them to just aggregate that information and then break it down to a monthly number. Right, and because at least at that point you've got your arms around the situation.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I had clients in my office yesterday, 2 couples, they're planning to go to French Polynesia. One couple, money is no object. They're going for their anniversary. They want it to be special. They're going to do vow renewal ceremony. It's the whole 9 yards.
Sure.
Their friends who are going with them have a different story. They've got a budget to work with.
Right.
And we were sitting there planning, how many nights can we do? What room category can we afford to book for them?
Right.
How much money do they need to budget for meals and for spending and ancillary items? And we had that whole discussion and went through it. And they're like, okay, we're going to take this home. We're going to crunch some numbers and we'll get back to you after the holidays. And I said, perfect. That's what you need to be doing. You need to be thinking about what is the trip going to cost? How long are you going to be gone for? And what are some of the other factors that are going to fall into place that you need to account for with this?
And do you have a rule of thumb? Because I'm sure it's probably 2 answers for maybe it's 2 questions too. So how far in advance do you want and do you advise people to book domestic travel? How far in advance do you want them to book for international travel?
Okay, so there's different schools of thought on this.
Well, I just want your school of thought.
And if we're talking airfare, the gurus who analyze the algorithms will tell you that the best time to buy domestic airfare is about 8 weeks prior to travel.
Oh my God, people are just committing this to memory. Yes, okay.
I know.
8 weeks.
But the caveat to that I will tell them is there a special event going on in the city?
Right.
Is there a sporting event? Is it a holiday? Is it spring break? Is it fall break? These are things that you have to book a little bit farther in advance if you're going to travel during those times because they're higher peak, higher demand times and the prices will be higher. So we want to plan farther out.
Right. Specifically, if you mean it's like spring break and it's also like Florida.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Exactly.
Spring break North Dakota may not.
A little different.
Okay, great. Got it.
Exactly.
8 weeks. Got it.
8 weeks.
Okay.
And then for international, they say that the best time to find your fares is roughly around 6 months prior to
6
travel.
months. Okay.
But when you're planning, I will tell everyone, look at what you're comfortable with. If you find a fare that fits your budget, let's lock it in sooner rather than later. And I'll start looking, some of my clients want to look a year out. So as soon as that airfare opens up, they want to know what that is because they want to lock it in.
And that's when they open. It opens 365
333 days prior to
Okay.
flight time.
Got it.
So we have to make sure that the return trip is open as well. So once we know that, then we can go ahead and start looking and analyzing.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Got
Because
it.
it's the end date, not the start date, and people forget that when they go looking. So we take all that into consideration. And, I have some clients booking right now for 2020 even because they're planners and they want to budget it.
I know, but I'm a planner. I just can't get there. I just can't get there. I want to. It's also because I'm not a great vacationer, but I'm getting better.
And I have clients who walk in the door and say, hey, I want to go here. I'm like, great. When do you want to go? Oh, in about 3 weeks.
Ooh. Well, that's it. And so
Okay.
they're going to pay more.
Definitely.
Okay.
So there is a benefit to advanced planning.
Yes.
And the benefit right now for people that are looking at things into early 2019 is the airlines have already said they are going to take a fare increase. They have not said when. They have not said what, but they have said that they will take an air fare increase in 2019. Now, I know looking back on 2018, they took 3 increases during the month of January.
Okay.
Yeah, they might have been $2 here, $10 there, $5 here, but they were taking increases, and they did it 3 times in the month of January last year. So if that's any indication of what we're looking at, there was a study that came out by Hipmunk that said the best time to buy fares this year will be in January and September.
Interesting. Of the year coming.
Of the year coming.
Right.
So looking at January 19 and September 2019, those are going to be your best months for finding deals on airfare if you're looking to book.
And again, from a purely financial perspective, that's the kind of information I want everyone to know.
Exactly.
Purely, awesome. And one of the things you and I talked about a little bit are those, and again, we mentioned it a little bit in the early in the podcast. I want to just go back to it, is, and I don't see it often enough, is that you really should consider creating that separate account for savings just for vacations. It will do 2 things. 1, it'll help you with the budgeting.
Yes.
But 2, it'll make sure that the money's actually there.
Yes, and it'll alleviate the stress.
Right.
Of how are we going to do this? Because if something pops up, the water heater breaks, the pool needs resurfacing, you know, there's a medical bill that pops up, you've got that money tucked away that you know it's there. And it reduces the stress. So going back to making it a healthy vacation.
Absolutely right. Because I can imagine that, you know, if you're on vacation and all you're really doing is then worrying about how much every meal is going to be when you're on vacation. And believe me, and listen, I get it. I'm bringing tons of protein bars. I'm bringing, you know, snacks. I'm snacked out. Like I'm a squirrel. I got like nuts in my corner of my cheeks, and I get all that. But if you're really worried, it could lead to arguing and fighting and this and
and that takes all the fun out of the vacation. So you want to think about these things. And we even have clients who come in and say, "Well, can I do like a layaway plan on this?" Absolutely, you can. So
really?
Absolutely.
I didn't even know that.
Absolutely.
I'm learning a lot. Thank you for that. So one of the things that my grandfather taught me, my grandfather is really the one who taught me everything that I originally knew about investing.
Okay.
He was the best. He would say, you never spend your principal. Never spend your principal. And you want to spend income, you want to spend growth. Now, mind you, I was like 6. I didn't have it. And he would just repeat these things. 7 and 8, 9, 10. I'm a teenager. I still don't know. And it wasn't until I started working in this business when I was 18 that I understood. I was like, now I get it.
Yeah, get stuck.
So don't spend your principal. So when you're setting money aside, and again, for investing, you don't pull money out of investments for vacation. I really want it to be something that you're setting and saving on the side. And as a rule of thumb, I would advise clients to spend somewhere between 5 to 7% of your annual income. It depends upon who you are and where you're going and if it's special or different. Yes. But 5 to 7% is going to be a nice range, because some people are going to just straight up listen to this and say, how much?
Right.
Okay. You want a how much? 5 to 7%. Does that sound reasonable?
I would go a little bit higher, only because I see these days travel is in demand. And so all of the companies that are out there, the hotels, the cruise lines, the tour companies, they have high demand. And you know the law of supply and demand. When you've got high demand, the prices go up.
Right.
And so it is going up a little bit. So I'd say, increase that a couple percent.
Okay.
And you'd be on target for being able to do a nice trip.
Right.
Depending upon what's important to you.
Yes.
And we work with people from, all budgets. So
right. Some of our clients make a bunch of money, though.
Yes, they do.
So even 5% of that, it would be just a monstrous.
Oh, it would be. I mean, we have clients who come in and need to plan everything on a vacation from, they've got a budget of $2,000-$3,000 and what can we do? And I've got clients who walk in the door and say, money is no object. I want the best of everything, and I want these very unique experiences.
Yeah.
So we're used to that.
Right. And then you get people like me.
Yes.
Very different. They're very different. I'm just different. There's moments where I'm like, yes, and then no. And then it's a whole different internal struggle.
Well, you have to have it proven out.
I know.
You need to see where it fits and how it makes sense to justify the expense. And we're used to people like that.
There was, one of the things that you did for us in Italy, and I think it just helps, is that there were times when you suggested that we spend a little bit less on a hotel here and spend a little bit more on a hotel there. And it made a huge difference. One, it made us appreciate the more expensive hotels more.
Yes.
Two, when we were at a worse hotel, it incentivized us to spend a little bit less time indoors.
Yes.
So we were more, apt to go out and explore. But it really is it's an interesting process because it really isn't all or nothing with that kind of a structure.
Yeah. It like I say, it depends on the individual client because some people like 5-star hotels, 6-star hotels, and that's all they want, and that's all they're going to do.
Yeah.
Other people, they go, I can do a 3-star, I can do a 4-star, I can do a 5-star. It doesn't matter. I really want to experience the city. So what I look at when I'm planning is where are they going to be?
Yeah.
What kind of experience do they want? How active are they going to be? If you're in an area where you're only sleeping in the hotel at night, do you need all the accoutrements? Do you need the spa facilities? Do you need the indoor pool? Do you need the rooftop garden? What's important? And if we're working on a budget and we're trying to hit a number, because one of the things that we also did is we created some private guided experiences for you on that trip.
Yeah.
So that's worth it rather than being with a group of 20 or 30 other people on a tour.
There's no doubt.
So
we'll
there's ways to juggle the budget to make it fit, and you're still in a good location where you can walk to shops and restaurants and activities without having to spend a lot of money on transportation. And so maybe you sacrifice to be in a city hotel rather than being in a resort. It depends on the destination. If we're talking South America, if we're talking Europe, if we're talking Africa, it depends where you're going to be.
You did this, and so when you did that experience, I would see people in the big groups tours, and there's everyone's wearing like headphones, and they're trying to like scuttle along and hear and listen and this, and I felt bad for him because I had a really nice experience with our, one-to-one. You could ask all the questions, get them answered. It was really great.
Yeah.
So thanks again. That was awesome. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about there's pitfalls to watch out for when you're booking your own travel.
Yes.
So can we go through and unpack that? Because listen, until you work with a travel agent, you just don't know.
Yes.
So you think these days it seems like you go to Expedia. And you're adding a hotel, or you go to Priceline or whatever. You're adding a hotel, you're adding a car. It's making which you would hope to be good recommendations, and you're clicking and adding and this and without really putting a lot of thought into how the whole thing fits together, which you mentioned a little bit about. But so what are some of these other pitfalls?
Okay, so there's some interesting pitfalls when you're booking on your own because it's a cumbersome process to sit down and try and figure out your whole vacation to go to a place that you've never been before.
Right.
And how does it all fit together? And there's an interesting study from Clayton Reed, CEO of MMGY, that looked at this whole series of travelers and determined that the typical traveler visits 34 websites over 8.5 sessions to plan and book their trip.
That sounds like a lot. That's a lot of time, isn't it?
That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
So how much is your time worth? So that's one of the factors.
I really want people to ask themselves that question a lot more than they do.
Yeah.
Just about this and other things.
Yeah.
How much is your time worth? That is, okay.
So that's a big one.
Yeah.
What you're looking for, too, is a lot of time people get focused online and they're looking for best deal rather than best value. And that's something that people don't understand. You can find the cheapest hotel, but going back to the family that I referenced earlier, how far out is it from the center of town that you're going to be spending $45, $65 on taxis to get back and forth and do what you need to do to get where you want to be? you've blown the budget. You could spend a little bit more money, be in a better hotel closer in. So things that you want to think about there.
And thinking about that family, I wonder, they may have looked at pictures. They say, wow, that hotel's very picturesque, and look at the price is good, and the pictures look good, and the reviews look good.
Yes, but how long ago were those pictures taken?
Right, and by the way, how are you getting there? Right, and that's, okay, yeah, that's, to me, I'm sure something like that must have happened.
Exactly, exactly. So that's one of the things that we look at. And then fixing errors. I cannot tell you how many times we have people walk through the front door of our office and say, I was online and I booked this hotel and I realized I had made a mistake. I'm in the wrong area, or I did it for the wrong dates, and can you help me fix it? And the problem is these websites are putting out rates now. Some of them are fully refundable, but some of them are non-refundable. Right. So if you're booking the lowest rate, you're getting a non-refundable room.
Yeah, and that's the reason why you're getting the rate, because it's not refundable.
And when it's done, it's done. There's no changing it. There's no going back. There's no fixing it. You know, you can throw yourself on their mercy, but they're not going to do it, because the Expedias of the world and the Pricelines, they're not the ones who make the final decisions. They have to take it back to the innkeeper and the hotel owner and front desk people to make that decision. And they're not going to change their minds once it's booked. Right. The other thing is, when they book these discounted rooms, and any good hotel GM and sales manager will tell you, what they're doing is you're getting whatever room is available. If it's a room of the alley, if it's a room of the dumpster, whatever it might be, that's the room. If they're sold out and their good rooms are gone, the good rooms are gone. Now, could you get lucky and get an upgrade? Yes. Have we heard people who have said they've booked on Expedia and walked in and gotten an upgrade? Absolutely. It can happen.
I'm not one of those people.
What are the chances of it happening? Not so much, on a regular basis. So that's the difference when you're booking online as well. You just have to understand that you're taking your chances there, and that's one of the pitfalls. The other thing is, do you need a visa? For your destination.
Oh, right.
When you book online, there's nothing there that's going to pop up that's going to tell you, check your passport, make sure it's valid for 6 months beyond your return date for this country, or 3 months for this country, or you need a visa for this country.
People don't even know. There's no way. Unless you've been there before, you probably don't even think about it.
Exactly. And we had a guy do that. He booked his trip to India. He booked it all online.
Okay.
And 3 weeks before he was supposed to leave, he walked in and went, oh my God, I just realized somebody told me I need a visa. Can you help me get a visa?
And what's the answer?
And I said, yes, we can help you get a visa. And the next time you book this trip, you're coming back to us to help you plan it, so we can tell you this from the start, right?
Right, because that could have been, I don't know how far he would have gotten, but that could have been a real disaster.
It definitely could have been.
Yeah.
They would have turned him around. They might not even have let him leave the U.S. without verifying that he had a visa for his final destination. So those are some things that you just need to understand and look out for.
Yeah, that's great information. Again, we, like I say, everything that glitters isn't gold.
Exactly.
Right. Not all things that are great, even on paper, are that way in reality.
Exactly.
And, this is definitely another case. There's a lot of things that came to mind financially, but I'll glaze over it.
Well, from a financial standpoint, there's the other thing. There was a big article out a couple of years ago about Expedia and the algorithms that are used for the online booking engines.
What did they say?
And it said that depending upon where you are when you're booking and what type of device you're booking from, the prices can be different in your search.
Really?
Absolutely. So if you're on a desktop computer in, Buckeye versus, the newest iPhone sitting in Paradise Valley,
right,
your search could come up with different prices.
That is unbelievable. It does. Of course, it makes sense. But that doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't feel good at all.
So again, you got to know more about what you're buying before you buy it. So there's some things that I always wanted to know about vacation planning.
Yes.
And now you're captive. Okay.
Ask away.
When does it pay to travel in an upgraded seat on an airline?
Okay. So the best way I look at that is it's worth spending the money if you've got a flight of more than 8 hours overnight. So when you're traveling from here to Asia or Africa or even, distant parts of South America, and even for some of my clients, my older clients especially, going to Europe. if you're on a night flight, you don't want to be sitting in a coach seat.
Right.
It's just not fun anymore.
Some people manage to sleep in those seats. I'm not that guy.
I'm tiny, so I can get away with that. But
just curl up in a little ball and you're good to go.
Even lately, because they're making the seats smaller on the planes, even I'm starting to get uncomfortable.
Right.
So So
and
if it's a long
cushions
flight,
are not new most of the time in coach either.
No.
Okay. So So overnight, and I will agree because I think you're right. When we took the flight overnight, it was we did have the seats that did go further back. It made a huge difference because we were able to rest a little bit, and then it didn't matter as much when we had the really long flight during the day.
Right.
It would have been better to have it, but we survived.
Exactly.
Got
exactly.
it.
So you can look at the different classes of service because there's coach, there's premium economy, which gives you more leg room, more seat width, and a little bit better service, and then there's business class where you can get the lie flat, beds and the really nice service.
Right. But then what are the best ways to buy that seat? The big seat, the upgraded seat. Because you can do it in cash or you can do points but credit card miles or airline miles or how do we do this?
So people do it a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And I work with my clients in everything that makes sense for them. So if I have clients who have, the credit cards that give you points, the Chase card, Sapphire, and the Capital One, and all of those, American Express Platinum, what I tell them is, let's go ahead and buy the tickets. You don't get quite as much of a redemption, but you're going to get your points for making your purchase.
Okay.
And then you call the credit card company and have them redeem your points against your balance.
I see.
And that's a good way to do it. If it's with a particular airline, then you've got to play the points game. Do they have it available? Can I fly on this day?
Right.
And when you're doing that, you need to be able to make a decision right then and there, because if you hang up that phone and you tell them, okay, let me talk to my travel companion and I'll get back to you, and you call back 10 minutes later, sure enough, somebody else is not going to be able to find that on the other end of the phone or tell you that it's gone or whatever the case may be. And I've seen it happen because we've been intermediaries for our clients.
Right.
I will personally get them on the phone and do a conference call with the airline.
Right then and there.
And say, here's what I think we need to do. This is what's available. Let's book this in. It fits with your itinerary.
Yeah.
If you're not using points, you want to go ahead and book that airfare when you find a price point that's good for you. So start looking as far out as soon as the airfare opens up, because those seats are more restricted.
Right.
And it depends on the carrier. With Delta and British Air and some of those carriers, we have what we call the global distribution system right on our desktop. So we've got the airline computers right on our desktops.
Really nice.
We can go in and we can book those fares and we can grab them and we can hold them for 24 hours for somebody.
Nice.
With companies like United, their premium economy class can only be bought up. So you've got to buy your ticket first and then upgrade your seat, or go in on their website and buy it on their website when you're upgrading at the time that you book it. So it just depends.
Different rules for different airlines.
Different rules, absolutely.
Again, that's why you need professional help. Again, this is how many times we have to tell you need professional help. So personally, I've stayed at some fancy hotels, and there's conferences or other reasons. And again, there was one particular night in Italy that was amazing at that monastery, which was super cool. I've also stayed at some inexpensive hotels as well. We talked a little bit about some of the differences, but I would ask, is there any kind of guidance you can give on when it makes sense for us to stay at the fancy? When does it make sense for us to be paying up for a more expensive room versus saving money that way? Is it just a matter of what you're going to be doing during the day, or is there more to it?
It is. Part of it is travel style, what you're accustomed to, what you're comfortable with. And the other part of it, is it a special occasion? Are you going for a birthday, an anniversary, a graduation, a special life event, a retirement gift? What is the situation, and what do you need for amenities in that hotel room? So if you're going in on business, you can stay at the Hilton Garden Inn in downtown Chicago, and it's absolutely fine.
Right.
If you're going in for, a 40th birthday party and you want to make it special, you're going to want to stay maybe at the Park Hyatt because you want all the accoutrements and you want the service and you want the location and you want it to be special.
Right.
So it depends on the situation and it depends on everybody's budget. You know, if you've got a $3,000 budget or a $30,000 budget, it's going to determine what kind of properties you want to use.
And I got to just say, I am surprised at the value that I received by spending more. It really was worth it. In lots of cases, it really is. It's hard to explain it though, because in some cases there is such a difference, but experientially, it's a whole different feeling that you get.
It is.
When the service is some way and the sheets are a certain way, and then the restaurants on site are a certain way.
And there's one of my favorite stories is there's a client that we worked with. We planned their honeymoon, and he changed jobs right before the wedding, and his new employer would not give him the time off for his honeymoon.
Oh.
So I got a phone call, a very panicked phone call from the bride.
This is your favorite story.
And
oh my goodness, what happened?
They had to postpone the honeymoon for a couple of months until he could manage to get the time off.
Okay.
So we did. I worked really hard to get everything redone, get them refunded where we could get them refunded and make everything right. And so they wanted a nice place to stay for their wedding night.
Yeah.
So I booked them in at the Fairmont Scottsdale Princess.
Nice.
Over Christmas, because it was a December wedding.
Wow.
So they had the whole Christmas thing going on.
Nice.
And it was wonderful. The next year she called me up and we went back and booked them for their first anniversary.
Yeah.
And they got all the special perks that I get from my clients. So one of the things that we offer is we have a program with a number of hotels around the world that are our preferred hotel partners, and we negotiate with them for extra perks for our clients.
Oh, wow.
So you might get free breakfast, you might get a bottle of wine in your room, you might get a spa credit, food and beverage credit, whatever it might be. So we did this for 2 years in a row. And then I got a phone call from her this year, and she's like, hey, you know, we went to the Fairmont for my birthday and I didn't get any of the extra stuff that we normally get. What happened? What was wrong with that?
Right.
And I went, gee, you know, let me look. And I go into the computer system and I'm looking in her profile because I'm not remembering the trip, but I'm going, okay, maybe I've been so busy. I just forgot I did this. I went, I didn't book this for you, did I? And she's like, no. I saw a special online, so I booked it.
Right.
I said, that's the difference.
Right.
You didn't have me to book it for you at our program rate and get you all the extra perks that you normally get. She's like, I am never doing that again. Because
you'd be surprised. You're thinking, it was just little perks. Who cares? I can't explain it. It matters.
It does matter.
Yeah, it matters, and it adds a lot to the experience completely. So now I understand why that's a perfect story. Okay, so what do people need to be aware of if they're going to VRBO or Airbnb? And are there disaster stories there too?
Well, we've all heard the disaster stories in the news about the Airbnbs, you know.
What's that?
Hidden cameras in the rooms.
Yeah, no, I guess that's right, yeah.
You know, things not being as sanitary or clean as they could be, or showing up and it doesn't look anything like it did in the photos online.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff. So when we work with our clients, because these are properties that don't necessarily compensate or work with travel agents on a regular basis, they don't understand that. They're individual owners trying to rent out their rooms or their condos or whatever they are. We will work with our clients and we charge them a fee. We tell them, we'll charge you a fee to vet this for you. And we do.
I'm sure it's worth every penny.
We will go in, we will call the owner, we will have a series of 20 questions that we're going to ask them to make sure everything about the destination, the parking, the cleaning, the fees, how far is it from point A to point B if you're going to the beach. We don't want any surprises for our people. So that's one of the things that we look at. And I've had people with great, you know, VRBO and Airbnb stories, and I've had people that just said never again.
Right. Do you know how many questions I've ever asked on all my VRBO rentals?
How many?
0.
Ooh.
Right. And you could tell. I could tell you some horror stories. So this is, and you can't. The answer can't be personal preference. So I'm not going to let you get away with that answer to this question.
Okay.
Because I struggled with this. How active should people be on trips? Should a trip be? Should it be more relaxational? Should it be more focused on exploration? because I fear a trip that's too busy, particularly with the one with Europe. If it's too busy, I'm not going to relax. But I don't know how to strike that balance. And I think that, and I know it's going to be different for everybody, but is there any way that you can help us look at this and break this down?
Okay, so part of it depends on your destination.
Right.
So if you're going to Europe, you want to be able to see as much as you can possibly see, but you want to plan in a day or two of downtime during that week's itinerary so that you can just be.
Right.
Just go walk to the town square, sit and have a cappuccino or a glass of wine, go through the local market, be part of the culture, and experience the destination that you're in. So you need to be able to plan for that.
Right. You can't just run around from destination to destination.
You really can't. You don't want to do that because it's not a lot of fun. And there are people who enjoy that and will do that, and they're okay with it. But I always try to tell people you want to go. The trend these days in travel is experiential travel.
Right.
People want to get back to, there's a reason why I went here or there. And you don't want to miss that. And that's what you have to factor in.
Right.
We just took a group of 18 people to Africa. And one of the things that I did, because it was a very aggressive itinerary, but we wanted to cover a lot of territory. We were gone 16 days.
Wow.
We went to Kenya and Tanzania. We traveled from the far south to the far north up to Samburu.
Oh, my goodness.
But what I did is I factored in a couple of nights at the Mount Kenya Safari Club to just have downtime that people could, midway through the experience, go to a spa, get a massage after, bouncing around in the vehicles and being with the wildlife and doing all that. And everybody said that was one of the best parts of the trip, was having that downtime to sort of regroup before we went to the Masai Mara and then just kind of hit it again, going in and out with the safaris every day.
So every trip has to have an element of relaxation in it.
It definitely should.
Okay.
And you can do a whole trip on relaxation. You can do the spa wellness trips that, all you're doing is relaxing and revitalizing and eating well and going to the beach or whatever, or going to the mountain, doing your yoga and doing your stretching and all that. And that's great. If you need that, and there are clients who do, factor that in. But if you want to be active, go do your zip lining, go do your hiking, and then go see your ruins and take a day off to just sit and relax.
And I did something when I went to Mexico at one point. I feel like the first couple of days there was a lot of relaxing, and really there was a tremendous amount of sleeping. Apparently, I was super tired, and there were then the pyramids, and then you're able to mix that in. Okay, but rest in the beginning or the end or the middle, or does it matter?
I say rest. Well, you want to get a day in. Get depending how far you've flown, you might need a day to adjust to the jet lag, and then you hit the ground running, and then maybe take a break midpoint, give yourself a day downtime, and then end on a high note. Okay,
and how do you? And you mentioned jet lag. First of all, it really. I sleep 4 or 5 hours a night, so I'm thinking, I will be totally fine. No, I can't. I can't explain it. It really wiped me out. So how am I going to do this better next time? How do you plan for jet lag? Okay, so the way I plan for jet lag is when you're going on the trip and you get to your destination, you want to make sure you limit the amount of caffeine that you're drinking a day or two before you go and on the plane. Don't drink a lot of alcohol on the plane unless you absolutely need it, to get you through the flight. But if you can avoid it, do. If you're in business class, you avoid. Oh my God. Okay.
Have your one glass when you get on, and then you're good. Okay. Drink a lot of water. Yeah. And when you get off the plane, you stay up. Okay. Do not go to your hotel and check in and say, I'm just going to take a nap for a couple hours and then go out. I totally did that. You will be down for hours. I was a mess. You will wake up maybe in time for dinner. It did, and yes, it was not great. Okay, good. Yeah. All right, noted. So do that, and then when you're coming home, of course, it's easier to deal with the jet lag when you're home because you can take a little more time to adjust and you're not worried so much about missing things. But same thing, coming home, just try to get back into your normal pattern as soon as you land. And same thing, limit your caffeine for 24, 48 hours, drink more water, oxygenate your body at the
Yeah.
health food store. There's little tablets that you can take oxygen and put in your water and emergency C and that
I
kind
know
of
that,
thing.
yeah, that I should have done that. And we when we got back from Italy, we literally we were traveling from we left the hotel in Rome at 7. We arrived at home at 10 p.m. Arizona time.
Yes.
So it was 23 hours of travel, right? And so planes, trains, automobiles, the whole thing. And so Julie said, I'm not going to work tomorrow, which was planned for her. And I said, are you kidding me? So I was like, I need to get right back. I went to the gym. I went to work. By like 2 o'clock, you could forget. You could have asked me what my name was. I wouldn't have been quite sure.
Yeah.
Not the way to do it.
And you just have to realize it's going to take you a couple of days after you get back. And so factor in your schedule when you're returning home. Yes, you have to go back to work.
Yeah.
But don't make an aggressive schedule for yourself if you can avoid it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, that's definitely right. Now, so Roxanne, was there more that you wanted to cover? We cover everything travel. We have notes, and you should see the desk. It's covered in paper and highlighters.
I'll give you some travel trends for 2019 if you want them.
Yes, we need them.
Okay.
What are they?
So what we're seeing in our office, and of course there's all kinds of lists out there. Amex has a list, Nat Geo has a list, Condé Nast has a list,
Right.
Travel and Leisure has a list. Everybody has a list.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing for our office is
the AZ Trails travel list.
the AZ Trails travel list.
Go to aztrailstravel.com. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
The big ones are domestically Alaska, Hawaii, always popular, New York City,
Okay.
Savannah,
Georgia.
and Charleston. Yep.
Oh, so
Yep.
loves Charleston, South Carolina.
Love that area.
Yeah.
And New York, of course.
Right.
And then on the international level, Europe is still really big right now. Italy, the UK, Spain, and Portugal. Portugal is really hot property at the moment. And it's going to be the 75th anniversary of D-Day. So Normandy, northern France, very popular for next year. On the exotic side, we're seeing a real resurgence in Africa and Australia, New Zealand.
And so in Africa's safaris and things like
African
that?
safaris.
Of course, okay.
Yes, definitely.
In New Zealand, it's all about the sheep.
New Zealand, it's all about the sheep, the wine, the golf,
And of course, the views.
the beaches,
Yes.
the stunning views, the glaciers.
Yes.
It's amazing. And then re-emerging destinations, Greece, Egypt, and of course, Singapore is up and rising as an emerging destination again as well. Now, I looked just for kicks at the Amex top 10 trendy list for 2019, and they had Barcelona, Spain, Qatar, Hamburg, Germany.
Is Qatar safe? It must be safe.
It is safe.
It has to be if it's on Amex's trendy list, but okay.
It is
that
safe.
surprised me. I was just, whoa.
The United Arab Emirates actually is an emerging destination, getting a lot more interest from people these days, and it has been safe. It has made some of the top safety lists for travel.
That's good news. Okay.
Which is good news.
Yeah.
Marrakesh, New Zealand, Nassau, Bahamas, of course, with the new resorts opened over there. That's really great.
Right.
Savannah, they've got on their list. Singapore is on their list. Of course, Tuscany and Washington, D.C. So that's the travel trends.
Wow.
That
I feel
we're
like it's
looking
almost
at
like
for
the
2019.
weather report.
Exactly.
What we're expecting in the year ahead.
Brought to you by AZ Trails Travel.
.com.
Shameless plug.
It was as if we needed one more aztrailstravel.com plug. But Roxanne, you were a delight. Thank you so much for coming.
It's been
really
a pleasure.
appreciate it. So listen, the hope is that you now are confirmed in your understanding that you need a vacation. You have to take one. You know the pitfalls. You know how much you need to spend. You know where to spend it. This really is your one-stop destination to understanding how to do a vacation right. I think we're going to change some lives. Elizabeth is nodding in agreement.
Excellent.
Again, thanks again, Roxanne. That's it for the Henry and Horn Wealth Management Podcast. Thank you so much for listening in, and we will be back with you with the quarterly market outlook for 2019 will be next. Take care and have a great new year. Material on this program is intended for general information only. and should not be taken as specific investment, tax, or legal advice. None of the information contained in this broadcast is intended by the host to be a solicitation for sale of any security. Further information is available by contacting Henry and Horn Wealth Management. Securities offered through Independent Financial Group, member of FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Wealth Management LLC, DBA Henry and Horn Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. Henry and Horn Wealth Management and IFG are separate and unrelated entities. Henry and Horn Wealth Management are separate entities. Member of FINRA and SIPC.